Hong Kong hit by another violent clash on Monday. The unrest descended into citywide mayhem with skirmishes at police station. China on Thursday summoned the U.S. consulate in Hong Kong demanding clarifications over its contact with the Hong Kong secessionist forces. This week, China's central government offices in charge of Hong Kong affairs discussed the recent unrest in a meeting in Shenzhen with representatives coming from Hong Kong. Meanwhile, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie reached out to market traders in Hong Kong who were affected by Monday's protests. She pledged to chart a new course for Hong Kong. From the outside looking in, how do foreigners that are looking at the latest situation in Hong Kong perceive what's going on over there? I'm joined here by an American living in Beijing, Nathan Rich, a technical executive from California, and also has been making political commentary videos online and quite have some followers here in China and beyond. Nathan, welcome to our program.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've been traveling back and forth between Beijing and Hong Kong on different frequencies. Tell me about your thought about Hong Kong now.
So the situation that I can see is relatively dire, right? The stock market is down significantly. You know, there's violence. The reporting from the West about the situation is very skewed. You know, I've seen videos of people being pulled out of their cars and beaten on the streets. I've seen really horrific stuff. And so I think that, you know, it's entering into a situation where it can get much worse.
Now, I understand the State Department in Washington has already issued a travel warning to American citizens planning to go to Hong Kong. How would you respond as an American citizen about that?
Well, I think that it's probably the right step. I mean, there's been protests in the actual airports themselves. Flights have been canceled. And the footage that I've seen, it makes me not want to go to Hong Kong, frankly. It seems dangerous. It seems very erratic. You know, there's people with bombs, with Molotov cocktails, with knives and slingshots and, you know, lasers that they're shooting into people's eyes. It just seems to me like things are starting to fall apart.
There seems to be a lot of controversy going on about exactly what's the relationship between the police and also the protesters. Now, of course, among the protesters, there are many different categories of people. Nathan, when looking from outside, what do you make of these discussions and certainly debates, probably controversies?
So I think that the police have been overall, you know, pretty well restrained, believe it or not. When I look at the reporting that I see in the West, it's mostly about police shot tear gas or police did this, police did that. And I always wonder, why did they do that? And then I watch the video footage and I find out, oh, I see. They're responding to, you know, people basically trashing a building, lighting fires, you know, attacking people, even attacking the police with bricks and sticks and rocks. And so I think that, you know, the police are in a tough situation because you don't want to be seen as using too much force, and yet you don't want to put yourself in danger, and you definitely can't let the city just fall into shambles.
Now, when you are sitting here in CGTN, which is a news media based headquartered in Beijing, are you, many people would wonder, trying to do propaganda for China?
No. I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't necessarily agree with, you know, China about. There's, you know, nothing's perfect. But my opinion is that overall, the current government of China is just improving things year after year after year. Right? The GDP is going up, people's life expectancy, everything is getting better and better and better. And yet when I look to some, you know, sites on the West and some media companies, I get the opposite feeling. I get the feeling that, oh, everything's dark and gloomy and horrible and all these bad things are happening. And so I feel somewhat responsible for some of that. Right? I come from that culture, I come from America, and I feel in some ways that, you know, people have been complacent and sort of let this get out of hand. And so what I want to do is try to correct some small piece of it.
Having said that, though, what do you think will be the next step for Hong Kong as someone, just an observer, coming from certainly a very different culture and a very different country, particularly about the young people, the topics about young people actually is topic worldwide. So as a young member of a young generation yourself, I would say, what do you make of the discussions about the fate of the young people, the future of the young people?
Yeah, that's definitely a big issue because, you know, one of the things that people don't really realize or think about with Hong Kong is that when it became a British colony was during the Qing dynasty. And then when it came back...
The last feudal dynasty of China, but that was hundreds of years ago.
Exactly. And then when it finally came back to China was already the new China. And so they kind of, all the younger people in that entire generation, they must feel like they missed out on something. They missed out on the revolution, they missed out on the Civil War, or whatever developments happened that entire time. And so there's this sort of angst, and this is speculation, there's this sort of angst where they feel somewhat detached. And I think that you know, the government probably already is, but needs to take a good look at how do we, you know, move forward. This is them talking. How do we move forward with linking back up to the young people in Hong Kong?
Nathan Rich, what a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you so much for helping us to understand different perspectives, and this time from you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're watching World Insight with me, Tian Wei. Stay with us. We'll continue our discussion about the latest situation in Hong Kong with a legal scholar right after this break. Welcome back. We continue our discussion on the issue of Hong Kong. The central government from Beijing recently said that the priority is to restore law and order in Hong Kong. What does that mean, and how might that be done? Let's hear from a legal scholar, Professor Liao Fan. He is an expert on Hong Kong's basic law. He is the Deputy Director of the Department of International Cooperation at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, also known as CAS. Sir, welcome to our program. Help me to understand right now. The Chief Executive, Carrie Lam, today, when visiting the traders in Hong Kong, she was saying to everybody that the next powers of suggestions coming from Hong Kong as our government to the central authority is now in the process of soliciting public opinion. So to what extent the public will have their legal rights to provide their suggestions to the Hong Kong SAR government and eventually to the central government in Beijing?
This is actually a very important phase of making the final policy suggestion, because we need to have a wide base of voice from the public. And it's during this process that various voices, different standings, different opinions absorbed into this policy suggestion. And when make the final suggestion, they will sort of combine all these opinions together and submit to the central government. And this, it's not guaranteed that every piece of the proposal will be embodied in the final version, but altogether they will form a foundation of the ultimate suggestion submitted to the central government.
I see. Professor Liao, another question, legal issue. Since the latest chaos started in Hong Kong, we have seen several hundreds of people being arrested by the police. Now, according to the laws in Hong Kong SAR, because we're still talking about one country, two systems, so legally you need to look at the laws in Hong Kong to see what's going on. So what kinds of authority does the police have, and how, when these people being arrested, will be put to fair, in a way, legal judgment? Professor.
Actually, the line between peaceful assembly and, let's say, disturbance, turmoil, the definition used in Hong Kong was still the one that was coined in 1970 during the colonial period.
I see.
That was actually a following the event of 1967 disturbance. And we have this ordinance passed in 1970 by the Legislative Council. Actually, they use a phrase, the expression of a so-called breach of peace. Whenever, the assembly, or activities during this assembly, breach the peace, they cross the line and into some riotous activities. But again, the specific situations will determine, will govern, whether a person during this process will cross the line. But anyway, if somebody throws the fire bombs to the police building, or even bite the fingers of the police, based on my understanding, he crosses the line.
Okay, another important question. We have only probably 1 minute left, Professor Liao. That is, what exactly is the relationship between the Hong Kong SAR government and the central government when crisis arises in the Hong Kong SAR? Now, there were earlier suggestions and debates whether the People's Liberation Army should be sent in or not to calm down the situation. Of course, that's only a public debate. For now, Professor Liao, what do you think is the nature of relationship in this regard?
In summary, Article 18 of Basic Law makes this very clear. Whenever there is such disturbance,
Basic Law of Hong Kong SAR. That's what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah. Whenever there is such disturbance that the Hong Kong SAR government cannot control, and this kind of disturbance actually threats the national security, the National People's Congress Standing Committee may declare a state of emergency, and the central government may, by issuing an order, decide that national laws that, usually don't apply to Hong Kong, can apply in this situation. I'm talking about like national security law or even criminal law.
I see.
In this situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of illegal issues certainly are being looked at with microscope right now.
Yeah.
But certainly this is also a very important process for one country, two systems to shine at this point. Thank you so much, Professor Liao Fan from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. Really appreciate it. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Inside CGTN into your search engine or check out our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Inside team, thanks for watching. Tune in again next time for more insights across China and around the world. Good night.